Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and a Book. My name is William Hemsworth. It is great to be with you all on this week's episode. I'm pleased to have my guest. My guest at this time is author Jordan T. Maxwell. He's the author of Dandyflowers. Jordan T. Maxwell, a paramedic by trade, lives in north central Missouri, where he grew up and where Dandyflowers, Laura's Diaries, and Dandyflowers, Laura's Voice are set. He is the father of a beautiful 23-year-old daughter who is a Buckeye alum from The Ohio State University and who was a member of the Ohio State Marching Band for their 2018, 2019, and 2019-2020 marching seasons. His 20-year-old son is a computer whiz kid. He built a custom gaming computer. There's actually two computers in one case. He also holds the distinction of being the only baby that his dad has ever delivered in his 35 plus years in emergency medical services. Mr. Maxwell is in the wrap-up stages of writing the third Dandyflowers novel, Dandyflowers, Laura's Voice, which should be released in spring of 2021. As a change from young adult fiction, he's in the final production stages with his first children's book. It will be a very colorful 24-page book that is titled Lily McGill Rhyme Time. It will be released in the spring of 2021. He has adopted Dandyflowers for the stage and is working on the stage adaptation of Dandyflowers, Laura's Diaries as well. Jordan, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. Sitting out here in Missouri, looking out at the snow on the ground. It's wonderful.
My kids would be so jealous. I live in Tucson, Arizona, where it barely snows, and I think today is going to be in the mid 70s, and they're always begging for snow.
So tell them to wear a jacket when it's so cold out there like that. I mean, it's hang on, let me see something here. Yeah, right now it's 32 degrees.
Well, bless you.
Staying in the house.
Well, thank you for coming on the program here on Elevation Radio Network. How did you get started in writing?
Just as a kid, the school assignments and that sort of thing would just write. And high school, my junior and senior years on the school newspaper. I did more photography than anything, but I did some writing. And then it's just always been something I've always dabbled with. And then I'm trying to think. I think it was after my daughter was born, I just decided I'm going to write the epic horror novel because I wanted to, compete with Stephen King. I think I did pretty well. It was I don't know what was it called? Alternate Universes, I think was the name. That sounds right. And it was a horror, but not in the way I'd hoped. It was just awful. I did get the blue ribbon from the Wisconsin State Fair in the Limburger cheese category because it stunk so bad. But ironically, there's two characters from that story that I salvaged, and they are actually in the Dandyflowers books. That's Jack Ivy and his wife Erin. So that was the only thing I saved with those two names. Everything else is on a 3.5-inch disc floppy somewhere floating around the house. And so then in 2004, January, my wife and I separated, and I needed something to fill some long hours. And so I started writing. And so from January to March, I started writing the first incarnation. And I got to a point in the book, I thought, no. And so I scrapped it and started over. And I finished the first draft in December of 2004. And then that's when the work began. That's when I rewrite and let people read it and that sort of thing. And it was published in January of 2007. But when I was finally decided to let people read what I'd written, and that's kind of hard to do. You put a lot of yourself in those books. And then you hand it to someone, says, tell me what you think. And you think, oh God, they're going to, But there was a lady I worked with, Katie Thomas is her name. She's a nurse now. And I let her read it. So I gave her this 3-ring binder. It's got 500 sheets of paper. And it's, Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spaced, single-sided. And I handed it to her. 2 days later, she brings it back to me. And I see her coming towards my office. And she is, as I like to say, walking with purpose. And she did not have a nice look on her face. And I'm like, uh-oh. She comes in my office and threw it at me. And my boss is sitting there watching all this. And she said, she just said 2 words before she left. And I won't tell you what she said, but Well, it was her opinion that my mom and dad were not married when I was born. And, and so and my boss like, what's that all about? I said, I pushed her buttons. And at that was the time I thought, if I can elicit that kind of emotion from somebody, maybe I've got something. When my daughter finally read it, she was about 13. We're driving down the road and I could tell she was getting close to this particular point in the book all of a sudden she just reaches over and smack. And I'm like, what? Knowing full well where she was at in the book, she goes, you know what? I said, no, honey, what? She goes, why did you do that? And I said, well, honey, had I not done that, there wouldn't be a story now, would there? And she goes, fine, but I don't have to like it. And so when I tell people, when they read the first book, when they get to the end of it, they're not going to like me at all. In the second book, when they get to the end, they'll like me again. And with the third book, I think when they get to the end of that, they're absolutely going to love me. So it kind of comes full circle. But I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun writing.
So how'd you come up with the title Dandyflowers?
Well, my computer whiz kid son was 3. It was Easter morning of April. It was April of 2003. We're getting ready to go to church. And as I look out my window here, I can see where it happened. He walks out and there are some dandelions in the yard. And he walked over, he's looking at them, little 3-year-old kids, and he called them Dandyflowers. And that's where it came from. And so there is a tie-in to that in the book where that's talked about a little bit. So,
oh, very cool.
Yep.
So can you walk us through, I know we were talking off air about the publisher who should not be named.
I'll say Voldemort before I'll say their name.
Okay. Can you walk us through that process of getting signed with them going out of business, and how your books have come along since then?
Yeah, I was with that publisher. And I was with them for 5 years. And, being an absolute novice in that regard, I had no idea what to expect. And I'm like, I've got a publisher, yay! New York Times bestsellers coming next. Well, that never happened. But I was with them for 5 years, and they had what they called marketing representatives or marketing reps. And in the 5 years I was there, I had 10 different marketing reps. They kept changing them. Well, I think I understand now why. But and they always feed this great song and dance. Oh, new eyes on the project. It's gonna be great. No, we had to start over every time. And so finally, at the end of 2011, I received an email from that publisher. It was an internal email, and either it was sent to me deliberately or accidentally. I really don't know, but it was an email that said what they had not been doing and some of the internal stuff. And so I contacted the president of the company, and we went for one evening, about 2 hours, we're emailing back and forth, and he's giving me the old song and dance. And finally I sent him that email. I said, what's this all about? And he turned around and immediately he refunded me my money. Now, if you're getting into publishing and there's a publishing company that wants you to pay money to publish, smile, say thank you very much, and then run away. If you're paying to do that, that's called vanity publishing. It's not real publishing. Stay away from it. If you want to do it that way, take your disc down to Kinko's and have it printed that way. It's about the same thing. But I did learn a few things. In 2012, we parted company, and I went ahead and went the self-publishing route. So I started out with Lulu, which I think is still out there. Yep. And they were okay. And then I went, the prices were a bit much. And then I found out about CreateSpace, which is now Kindle Direct Publishing. And that's what I do right now. As far as, people ask me, have you made a lot of money? No, I have not. But I've had a lot of fun. And one of the best things that's ever happened, a school teacher friend, she taught my 2 little brothers. She got in contact with me about the books, and in April of every year, now last year and this year it's not happening because of the pandemic, but down at University of Central Missouri in Warrensburg, and for you older folks, that's CMSU as it rightfully should be called, but they have what they call the Young Authors Conference. Not that I'm a young author, but they have these kids from, I believe it's 2nd through 6th grade, who write stories. And then they all get together and they pair these kids up with authors. And they actually asked me to be there. And I've done that for as many years as I can. But what was really, really cool, I always get either a group of 5th or 6th graders. I don't deal well with the smaller ones. The 5th and 6th graders I can talk to. And if they get out of line, I can give them the look and melt them right down. So it's no big deal. But there's been this young lady. Her name is Leah. And she is in the 7th grade now. I was just thinking about this earlier today. When she was probably in the 3rd grade, she's like 3 feet tall, and she walks up to my table. I'm thinking, oh, good, a little kid. One of the most articulate, brightest little girls I've ever talked to in my life. And I mean, it's like she's like a 9-year-old, 30-year-old. And we get to talking, and she says, I want to buy your books. And I said, no, I will not sell you my books because they are too old for you. Now, her grandmother was with her, and grandma said, thank you. I said, in time, but she's not old enough. I will not know. Go bye. The next year she comes and we chat again, and she still wants the books, and I still tell her no. And she's just a sweet little girl. So the end of her 5th grade year was the last time I saw her. She had grown up, and she's just this beautiful little girl. And she walks up and she's tall. And I looked at her, I said, oh my gosh, you've gotten tall. And she starts laughing, and her mother's with her this time. And her mom says, oh, you're the one she talks about. And I said, oh my gosh, I hope it's good. And she goes, oh yeah. And so we're talking, and she goes, I still want to get your books. I said, I know you do. And I grabbed both of them, signed them, and handed them to her. I said, look, you can just have them. I'm going to give those to you. And she was just, she was just excited about that. And I said, wait. Hand them back. And then I handed them to her mother. I said, now, Mom, there's a little bit of innuendo in there. I said, you probably see worse things on television, probably in television commercials. I said, but you read them first, and then you decide when she's old enough to read them. I said, I let my daughter read them when she's about 12 or 13. I said, so there you go. And I haven't seen her since. But jumping ahead a little bit to the 3rd book, I had started writing that in 2010, and it just set for a long time. After I had seen Little Miss Leah almost 2 years ago, I've got to write the 3rd book. And I did. And I put her in it. And she does not know that yet. So. Oh gosh. Yeah, well, if she sees this now, she knows, surprise. Okay. But so I made her a character in the book. And
that's cool.
It'll be a lot of fun.
So yeah. When's the release? Do you have a release date set for the 3rd book?
I'm editing it. I'm going through my 3rd edits right now. And then I've got 5 or 10 people who are reading it and offering, apparently I have the aversion to the word to. Lady pointed out many times I would leave that particular word out. The character is going to the library. No, it's to the library. So I guess I get typing too quick. So I say spring. That could be anywhere between now and May or June. I guess June 21st is the official day of summer. So sometime between now and June 20th. How's that?
Fair enough.
I just don't know yet.
We'll be on the lookout for that, everyone. No,
yeah, I'm having fun.
Well, that's good. I mean, and that's pretty cool that you've plugged in this Leah into the story.
Yep. And
that's pretty cool.
And there's another character in the 3rd book. The character, her name is Audrey. Now, my children both went to high school in Columbia, Missouri, at Battle High School, and my son was in percussion. My daughter played the trombone, baritone, and was one of the drum majors. And then she went on to her collegiate career in the Ohio State Marching Band. Not proud at all. But so after they graduated, I would take pictures of the band. For the past 4 years, we put together a scrapbook. And so after my kids graduated, I contacted the band director. I said, can I still take pictures? He goes, God, we were hoping you would. And so I go down to take pictures. So Audrey is she's a sophomore this year. It's just a beautiful young lady. And she's just ornery too. And I just love her. I love her personality. And so a year ago in February, I'm writing the book, but I was kind of stuck. And she and I had a 2-minute conversation. And because of that, the character of Audrey in the 3rd book is probably the 2nd biggest character in the book and all that. And it just, yeah. And I did something with the 3rd book I'd never done before. While I was writing it, there was a particular section that I thought it could be potentially bothersome to her or her mom. So I sent that section to her mom. I said, is this going to bother you? And it dealt with skinny dipping. I mean, it wasn't anything bad at all. And her mom writes back. She goes, oh my God, she would so do that. So I'm like, great. I thought with her personality, so yeah. So I kind of use real life and draw it in there. So yeah, but like I said, I'm having fun. I'm having a lot of fun.
That's good. So how did you go from those three to the children's book?
Oh, I have a almost 7-year-old great niece, and I've always kind of thought about it. But the Lily McGill, I'm looking at the pictures right now. It was just an idea I had, and then I got in touch with another former author from the publishing company who cannot be named, and she has started her own publishing company after she got burned by that particular one, and
Okay.
and I said, here's my idea, and we got talking back and forth, and now the illustrations, I'm just sitting here looking, they're amazing. I do not draw. In fact, I draw very poor stick figures. So
Same here.
that's not my thing, but the artwork is amazing. And the illustrator's name is Abby Bradbury. I've not met her, I've not conversed with her, but oh man, I'm impressed with her. And I just came up with this idea and I shot it to him. And just yesterday, I got the cover, and it's just wonderful. Of course, I'm a little bit biased, but a lot of people who I've posted on my Facebook, and people are just loving it. So yeah, it's 24 pages, and it's called Rhyme Time, so it is spoken in rhyme, and it's just kind of how little kids are.
Well, it must be pretty cool to see your book come to life in illustration, though.
If it wasn't for Miss Abby Bradbury, I just have a bunch of words. It's really, really cool. The cover, I had taken some of the pictures, and I thought, let's use this for the cover. But they came up with a much better idea. And when I saw it yesterday, I'm like, done, that's it. And it's just cool.
So I want to jump to your
screen.
You're fine. No, you're fine. No, your screenplay. How did that go, going from novel to screenplay? What's that process like? What are the differences in writing?
Actually, stage play.
Stage play. I'm sorry.
So that's how screenplays for movies, stage play.
Yep.
I had a lot of people tell me that when they read the first book, they said Dandyflowers would make a great movie. Of course, that's all I need to hear. That's kind of stokes my ego. And so I thought, I wonder. And so I just took the book, and when I write, and as you read the book, I do a lot of dialogue in the book. And I had a lady who has done a lot of stage plays. She goes, my God, you write great dialogue. I'm like, I just write how people talk, Maybe that's maybe I'm unknowingly good at that and just never realized it. But so I just decided to make it into a stage play. And I wrote it, and then I found out, that's not going to work. And I had to go back and rework it. And I've got a couple of versions of it, one with just 6 actors and one with 11 actors. And then there's a version for a single stage, and there's a version for a main stage and a side stage. So technically there's 4 versions of it, but it's basically the same thing. And it was just something I thought, man, let's try this and see what happens. So, and as of yet, it's never been done. It's never been performed. And I will give it to any high school or nonprofit community group who wants to put it on. I don't want any money. I would like to know when it's being performed, and who knows, I might show up just so I can see my characters come to life.
Well, great.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Well, that definitely would be. See, I mean, like you said, you have your children's book going from words to illustration, and then having your novel go from that form to seeing it played out in front of your eyes. And it's got to be, I mean, that'd be pretty cool to see. I mean, admittedly, it would be.
I would probably cry.
What's your baby? It's your baby. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize, when you're writing something, you're putting your heart and soul into it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it becomes you. It's part of you.
Yep. Yeah. When my daughter, on the 3rd book, she read the draft, and actually both my kids, when the first book came out, it was actually at Barnes and Noble on the shelf, and I knew it was there, so I take them up there, and we're walking around because my kids both like to read, and so I see it. I knew where it was at because I'd scoped it out the day before, and so I'm trying to wait. I'm kind of waiting for them to see it, and they haven't seen it yet. So finally, I walk up and put my hand underneath it. And said, what do you think? And finally, my daughter sees the book. She goes, Dad, it's your book. And then they both said, like I said earlier, I've not made a lot of money at it, but I've had a lot of fun. But I did get something better than money. Both my kids says, Dad, we're proud of you. And that's awesome. Boy, that's worth a lot. So with the third book, my daughter wrote it or read it, and she says, basically she said strong work. She really likes this third one. So we'll see. Maybe we got to tell them what the book's about a little bit.
Well, go for it. Go for it.
Well, the first book, so all three books are related. The Dandyflowers books. First book's about a young lady who gets engaged, and she's excited. She calls mom and dad, as a young lady would do. Her dad says, "Hey, why don't you come up here? Come back home next weekend or sometime. There's something I need to talk to you about." So she does, and her name is Erin, and her dad is Jerry Collins. And when she gets home, her mother is conspicuously absent. She has suddenly gone on to go visit her sister. So it's just dad and daughter.
Okay.
And I tell people, most of us think we probably know our parents very well. Erin was the same way. She thought she knew, but her dad spends this long weekend telling her about a part of his life she knew nothing about. It's about his first love, and her name is Laura Butler. And he talked, and I tried to write it. Like I said, I'm a Stephen King fan, and the book, it segues between present and past. It goes back and forth. I tried to mimic that, and I think I did okay with it. But that's how the story goes. So he starts telling the story, then it shifts back to the past, how they met, and their dating life, and ultimately why they're not together anymore. And like I said, when there's a certain part of the book, people will not like me, and that's great. I take great pride when people they've said a few choice to words when they get to that part. It just cracks me up. But I had a lady who's reading it right now, the first one, and she says, when I'm reading, she goes, "I feel like I'm there," and that is a great compliment.
Yeah.
So at the end of the first book, at the very end, Erin is now married to Jack, and they have just had twins. And so, as grandparents are wont to do, they have to come up and see the new grandbabies. And so they come up, and at the very, very end, like the last page of the book, grandma and grandpa have gone, and the babies are asleep, thankfully. And Jack says to Erin, he says, "Hey, your dad left you this box." And she's like, "What's that?" So they open it up, and inside it is a bunch of books with a note from her dad. And it is Laura's Diaries. So that kind of is a segue to the second book, Dandyflowers, Laura's Diaries. See, I'm real creative that way. And in that book, it's 4 years later. So Erin's twins are now 4, and they're very precocious. And I had fun writing that. There's some subplots in there that was just hysterical to me. If no one else, I sure enjoyed it. And so Erin gets to go on a trip to Chicago with her husband, and they have to do something with the kids. And so the kids stay with grandma and grandpa. And so I'm writing about Chicago. I've never been to Chicago except for about 45 minutes, going from gate B6 to B7 at Midway Airport. That's as close as I've been. But there's a place I was told about called Manny's Deli. My little brother has been there. It's a real place. And so I use that. And so Erin gets there to the hotel. Actually, the hotel they stay at is the Palmer House. Do you know what the Palmer House is famous for?
I don't.
That is where the brownie was created for the 1893 exhibition. So there you go, Mrs. Bertha Palmer. So I put that in there. I mean, you got to use some stuff. So anyhow, Jack thought he was going to have a little more time to see the sights of Chicago, but he's busy at this convention or wherever he's at. So Erin has left her own devices, and she goes out, and she, goes down to what's the science museum there. Anyhow, so she stops in at Manny's Deli to get a sandwich, and as she's walking by after she got her food, she accidentally knocks over this man's drink. Fortunately, it had a lid on it, so it's okay. So she apologizes, sits down, and she's eating, and this couple, this man and woman, come over to her and call her by name, and she's a little bit taken aback by that. It's Laura's parents. And they get to talking, and she tells her about the diaries, and Marilyn Butler says, "Oh gosh, we wondered what happened to those." And Erin says, she goes, "Could you send them to us?" And Erin's like, "You don't get it." She goes, "I've got them with me here in Chicago right now. I brought them with me." She's been very intrigued by her father's stories, and now she can read the diaries, and she's just really intrigued by this. So she ends up the next day driving up to Gulf, Illinois, which is a real town north of Chicago. I chose that because my friend Rick used to live there. That was the only reason. I thought, okay, what the heck. And so Erin spends time with Laura's parents, and then she gets to hear a little bit more about Laura. Now, the biggest complaint I had about the first book was everybody said Laura was too perfect. And my response to that has been, well, if you're the man who loved her, you would remember that she had a pretty smile, not that she didn't brush her teeth or something like that. You remember just the good stuff. Well, in the second book, you find out Laura was a little bit ornery in a good way, but you know, and so she gets to learn more about her father's first love. And then when they get back home, there's another climactic event, and things are really cool. So those two books, first one, Dandyflowers, was published in 2007. Laura's Diary was in 2010. I started writing the third one, in late 2010, and then my mom and dad got sick, and anyhow, I just got put on the back shelf. And so I've just now, December the 2nd, I finished the first draft. And so this time, it's called Laura's Voice. There's a young lady. Her name is Sophia. And Sophia is an angst-ridden teen. She's not happy because she and her parents had to move from Springfield, Missouri, up to the little town where all the other books take place. Now, I never name the town where in Dandyflowers. It can be any town in the Midwest. So, you know, and it's really kind of hard not to, when you're writing, how am I going to say this without trying to have a name for it? But anyhow, so they live there, and Sophia is just not happy. She's going to be a freshman in high school, just like Laura was when she moved there. And she's really torqued because she had made the cheerleading squad at Kickapoo High School, real high school in Springfield. It's also the high school where Brad Pitt went to school. And she made the varsity squad as a freshman. So, and she had to give all that up because they moved. And she's not happy. She's just almost 15. If you have a daughter, you will understand that. And so she ends up finding some audio tapes that Laura has made. And she spends time out at a covered bridge, which is mentioned in both of the other books. And her biggest complaint through the whole book is, you know, all this stuff has happened. She had no choice in it. And so she literally and figuratively makes choices in the book. And I thought some of this would be kind of offensive. I thought my daughter would throw a fit. She loved how I wrote it. And so there's kind of almost, I don't know if you'd call coming of age, if that's the right thing, but she's making some choices, and then she's really upset that her friends aren't there for her birthday, and her mom and dad end up getting her friends to come up, Leah and Audrey, and another character named Lainey. And life is pretty good. And then on the first day of school at this little school in the middle of nowhere, and she calls the town Podunksville. No, that's not there. And she's just not happy at all. She says, oh, it'll be like, you know, be at the Podunksville High School rooting for the mighty possums. And so she's just not happy. But anyhow, first day of school, something happens that ties everything together. It goes back to the very first part of the first book, and everything hopefully is tied together. And,
Great.
So for into the first book, you'll hate me. Into the second book, you'll like me. Into the third book, I hope you'll love me. So there we go.
Where can our listeners get a hold of the books?
What's that?
Where can our listeners get the books?
They can get them on Amazon, or they can get them off my website. And you know, if you get them off the website, I have a contact the author. If they want a signed copy, all they got to do is ask, and we'll send a signed copy.
Well, fantastic. Well, I thank you for taking some time today to come on the program and discuss your work. Great stories. We can go on forever, but we have a time limit here at the station. So, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I'm hoping that the third book and then the kids book, I hope things just really take off, because the kids book is just, I've already got an idea for a second one of those. I think little Miss Lily McGill, the idea I have is she's going to join the Ohio State marching band. That's kind of where I'm going to go with it. And try to write that in rhyme. That'll be kind of fun.
Well, look for those later on this year.
They're coming out.
All right. Well, God bless you, and thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.